Welcome to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Nicholson, crime scene investigator turned functional health investigator. This podcast is here to share bite-sized episodes and unique interviews on a wide variety of health topics to empower, enlighten, and educate you to live your best, most vibrant life. Disclaimer: all information you hear on this podcast is for information only and constitutes individual opinions of the person speaking. This should not be taken as medical advice. Being a listener of this show does not initiate a practitioner-client relationship between you and the hosts or panelists on this show. Please discuss these topics with your medical professionals before making any changes to your health. Okay, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. Today, we're going to have an interesting conversation around cancer and various things that we can do to deal with cancer if we're going through a cancering process or, prevention and kind of all the things. So I am joined with my special guest and my friend, Dr. Melissa, and she's going to share some of her perspectives on this topic. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Melissa. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Can you just kind of introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I am a retired chiropractor. I was practicing for about 20 years and decided that it was time to move on to something else. My whole adult life career has been about health and wellness. And back in February of this year, I received a diagnosis of breast cancer that I never thought I would ever receive in my life. I have no history of cancer in my family, so it was quite a shock for me. It was very small. It was stage 1. It was very easily taken care of. My latest scans that I had last month show that it is all gone, which is hallelujah.
Yay.
But through this whole process, I went into research mode and I wanted to learn everything that I could about cancer because, again, it was something that was never really on my radar. And in the process of that, I really learned how important exercise, among other things, is in the realm of cancer treatment, recovery, and keeping it from coming back, survivability. And I found this great program that teaches you and certifies you as a cancer exercise specialist. So I learned about all of the cancers, about all of the different treatments, about all the different recoveries, and how to tailor exercise programs for the different stages of treatment recovery and the different types of cancer. And it just really went right along with my whole health and wellness career, as well as my love of fitness and exercise and my desire to help people who are going through a similar process to what I went through to be able to come out on the other side and thrive in survivability. So that's where I am.
I love that. I know so many of us get into this field because of our own health journeys. And I think, your story is no different than a lot of people's, that you go through something, the recommendations don't either make sense or you're not clear about them or you don't agree with them, and you start on the research path and you chart your own path, and then you want to turn around and help other people do the same. So I think that's fantastic. Can you talk a little bit more about just the cancer exercise specialist piece and how is that different than just regular fitness? How is it, more unique to the cancer process and really that healing journey?
Sure. So for anyone who has gone through cancer, for anyone who has been with someone who has gone through cancer, just the toll that it takes on your body, even if it is something as, I don't even want to say as small, because I don't think any cancer is small. It's always a really big deal. Different things happen in your body depending on what kind of treatment you go through, whether it is surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, some kind of hormone or immunotherapy. It really takes a toll on your body. And like, for instance, breast cancer, some of the treatments are, reconstruction, and the reconstruction can be taken from different areas. It's not just oh, they take off your breasts and stick in implants. Sometimes they bring in your, muscles from your back or muscles from your stomach to help recreate and reconstruct that area. And the types of exercise that you can do through this process and afterwards are very different from what a person who has not gone through that will do. Whenever there is a surgery, there is some kind of scarring. So depending on where the scarring is, it's going to lead to muscle imbalances and posture issues and things like that you can't necessarily just go back to the same old routine. Your range of motion is going to be decreased. Your posture will be changed depending on that. And then when you go through something like radiation or chemotherapy, it also takes a toll on your body. So you have to be very careful as to how much you do and how much you lift and things like that. So there are very specific things for different types of cancer and different types of treatment that need to be taken into consideration when creating an exercise program. And let's face it, for anyone who has been through it, if you're going through radiation or chemotherapy, for many people, the last thing you want to do is get up and go exercise. You're feeling fatigued, you're feeling terrible, you just don't want to do anything. And honestly, that's when it's most important to actually be moving your body. And so sometimes it takes someone else to say, okay, we're going to go slow, but we're going to do something. It's that accountability of having someone to help you be safe, but actually be moving toward recovery. Because the biggest side effect of especially radiation and chemo also is fatigue. And it sounds counterintuitive, but the best way to combat fatigue is actually to move. And you don't want to, but you need to, because that's going to help get you out of that fatigue state. So I'm kind of a coach and a kind of an accountability partner, but also really helping people to be safe and go at a pace that's going to be best for their bodies while they're healing and recovering from all of the treatments that they go through with cancer.
Well, that makes a lot of sense that it's tailored to what they're going through and the type of cancer they have and the type of procedures that they've undergone. And, I hadn't even really thought about the scar tissue and the mobility side of it from that perspective. So that makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, like you said, over exercising or overdoing it. And I could see that being a big thing for someone who is an avid fitness person when they get the diagnosis, that sometimes you actually need to tame it down or do something different. And that makes a lot of sense because exercise, even though it's a good stressor, it is a stress, and you don't want to add to the cancering process by adding too much stress to the process. So I think that makes a lot of sense that it would need to be tailored. What other kinds of things do you see that people do either before they ever get a diagnosis or even during that process of, kind of dealing with cancer? What do you see that people are doing that maybe don't serve them as well as they think, or that are actually making things worse and they just don't even know it?
Speaking from my own experience, when I got that phone call, like it just shook me to my core. And you learn the things, oh, well, you're supposed to eat right and you're supposed to move your body and you're supposed to reduce your stress and you're supposed to sleep well. And when you get a diagnosis like that, all of that stuff goes out the window. I mean, I binged on lots of things that I shouldn't binge on because I was upset and I was scared, and that was my go-to. And the stress that comes on or that is compounded when you receive a diagnosis like that, which is really not good for you, but I mean, it's human nature, and it's going to create a level of stress that, you don't really think that you can handle. And again, depending on where you are, the stage of the cancer, the type of cancer, those kinds of things just adds to it. And we have been so conditioned to cancer being the equivalent of a death sentence, just because before all of the advents in research and treatment and prevention and all of that, people who got cancer died. Like, that was just kind of the way it is. And so many more people die from heart disease than cancer. And a lot of the treatments for cancer contribute to heart disease down the road. And cancer is so much more treatable, manageable, curable now than it was back then. And I really believe that people, when they receive a diagnosis, that they need some kind of emotional support from other people to kind of help them realize that, hey, this is not necessarily as bad as you think it is, and you're going to get the help to get through it and help to kind of reduce that stress level. But I mean, it is human nature, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't go through that when you receive a diagnosis like that. But you should also do the things to move forward and to help to take care of yourself, because a lot of times we think, oh, well, none of it matters anyway, so I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. And that can further progress, the cancer, and really taking care of yourself from that point of diagnosis through the entire process is so valuable, again, for survivability and setting you up for a great life on the other side, because there is another side for almost everybody.
For sure. And I think that's a great message to share. And I think that applies to every condition, really. If your mindset is, well, I got this thing and I'm going to die from it. Oh, well, I guess I'll just eat all the things and stop exercising and stop paying attention to all the things, and I'll just live life. Well, then that is going to be your fate.
Right.
But if you flip that and you're like, no, I'm going to beat this. I have a lot of control. I get to decide what I eat and when I eat and what I do and how I live and the gratitude that I have and, all of those kinds of things. You can have a drastically different outcome to, regardless of what your condition is. If that's heart disease, if it's cancer, if it's, diabetes, whatever that is, that mindset makes all the difference in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
What are
Because if
some
you think you're going to die, chances are you're going to die.
You will. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately. So mindset is huge.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the things that you think really move the needle as far as like improving outcomes and really helping people do? I mean, we know a lot, obviously stop eating junk food and some of the really like low hanging fruit things, but what are some of the things that you've seen, really make a big difference in improving those outcomes? Maybe let's just start with diet.
So I am a recovering, self-proclaimed sugar addict. That has always been my go-to. Any kind of candy, chocolate, cookies, ice cream, the like. When I was growing up, whenever I didn't feel good, that was my treat to help me feel better from my mom. And she did it because she loved me, but it really set me up that was my comfort mechanism. And once I received this diagnosis, I quit cold turkey. Well, took me a little while, but I had my binge when I was first diagnosed. But then I said, you know what, this could kill me, so we're done. So I cut out probably 98% of added sugar in my diet, and I stopped eating most processed foods. So anything that comes in a bag or a box that has more than 4 or 5 ingredients, probably not going to be good for you. I helped with a big campaign, I don't know, it's probably 8 or 9 years ago, to get labeling of GMOs on products. We helped get it on the ballot. It did not pass, unfortunately, but now it passed somewhere, because now products are saying if they contain genetically modified ingredients or genetically engineered ingredients or whatever that is. And if you see that on a box or a bag or a bottle or something, just put it back. Our bodies don't know what that is when it gets inside. And so they just turn it into fat, turn it into toxins, and it's not any good for you. So as little sugar as possible, stay away from processed foods. And if you're gonna eat meat, there is a big two sides to whether eating animal protein is okay versus eating plant protein. I am more in the camp of animal protein just because of the importance of protein in general in our diets for our muscles, for our health. But I only eat grass-fed beef, organic free-range chicken, wild-caught fish, and seafood. I have really not found much good pork out there, so I mostly stay away from pork. But the healthier the animal is that you're eating while it's alive, the healthier that is going to be for you. So those are kind of the big pieces on the diet scale. Dairy and gluten are, again, there's kind of two camps for that. Gluten doesn't do very well in my body. It gives me really massive brain fog and makes me just want to take a nap whenever I eat it. So I try and stay away from that. But honestly, the more whole food that you can eat, the more you know what it always was, like fruits and vegetables, protein, some grains, not a whole lot. Those are going to be kind of the best things for your diet.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, that applies to all health conditions. I mean, that's all standard
Absolutely.
advice that really all of us should be following, even if we don't have a diagnosis or a condition. I think those are all fantastic things. And I agree with all of it 100%. And
unfortunately, advertisers and, are doing their best to make that very difficult.
Yeah. They have a little bit of a motivated bias behind their marketing messages, and a little not so honest necessarily. So right. Totally. Okay. So what about some of the other things just in lifestyle in general? We've talked about exercise. We've talked about, diet, good and bad things. And you've kind of mentioned like sleep and stress and so those kinds of things. What other things have you seen that people either should be doing, think they're doing right, but aren't actually doing well, or things that, we just either need to stop doing or start doing to really live our best lives, and especially in the cancer process?
Honestly, I think, outside of diet and exercise, because those are like the big things that can really move the needle. Sleep is huge. We are a chronically sleep deprived nation, world, whatever. We think, hey, I can live on 5 hours of sleep. Even if I get up twice to go to the bathroom in that 5 hours, it's all good. And sleep is when we heal. Sleep is when we recover. Sleep is when we regenerate. Sleep is when all of the magic happens. And if we're not getting that sleep and we're not getting that chance to heal, it just spirals downward. So anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep is ideal. And it's good quality sleep. And there are things that you can do to help improve that. You can sleep in a cold room. Sleeping when it's cold is so much easier than when you are hot. Staying away from screens before you go to bed. That blue light that comes from screens automatically wakes everything up, and it makes it more difficult to go to sleep with that. And I take a little bit of melatonin every night just to help me to get to sleep. And there are lots of other things that you can do, but those are kind of the three that have really helped me the most and the people that I work with. And honestly, if you can just stay away from the screens for an hour before you go to bed, like read a book or sit and have a conversation, and just stay away from your phone, stay away from your tablet, whatever, that goes such a long way. And if you need to be on those, there are like blue blocker glasses that you can buy. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them almost anywhere, that help to block that blue light from coming into your eyes. So if you are watching television at night before you go to bed, just buy a pair of those blue blocker sunglasses or regular glasses, and you can get them for as cheap as, $20. And that will go a long way. And then really the other thing is self-care. It is so important to take care of yourself. And women especially, I think we're bred to want to take care of everyone else to the detriment of ourselves. And I always say you can't fill from an empty cup. And if you're not doing something to replenish yourself, you don't have anything to give to others. Even when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping anyone else. And self-care doesn't have to mean, going for a massage or having a day at the spa, something like that. It could be, for me, my self-care is exercise. I get up and I go to the gym every day, and that's time for me by myself that I am doing something for me. It could be taking a walk. It could be sitting down and reading a book. It could be, taking a bubble bath at night. There are so many things that you can do for self-care that are small, but they're important because they put the focus on you and filling your soul, filling your cup so that you have that energy to be able to give to others.
Yeah, I would add to that just doing anything that brings you joy is self-care. Anything that makes you happy, that makes you laugh, that makes you feel loved or supported or relaxed. Like, most of us actually are really bad relaxers. Sitting in front of the TV is not actually all that restful, especially depending on what you're watching. If you're watching something suspenseful or dramatic or any of these, that's not restful. Your brain is on high alert. You're sensing all of those stressors, all of those kinds of things. So doing things that are actually relaxing, that are actually restful, and that you love doing, whether that's pets or crafts or art or dancing, whatever it is, just do the things that bring you joy.
Well, but with a caveat, because some people will say, well, serving others, doing for others brings me joy. And that is true, as long as you are also serving yourself.
For sure. Yeah, it should not be at your expense.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. What about toxins? What about personal care products and cleaning products and cookware and those kinds of things? Do you delve much in that realm at all?
I am slowly going into that. That has been, I gotta say, it is so hard to find non-toxic products out there. I read a book shortly after my surgery, and the book was just, you need to get rid of this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and it was very overwhelming. And I find that with a lot of people that I talk to going through this process, is it can feel so overwhelming because there's so much out there and so many bad things that we're doing or ingesting, that it's overwhelming, and you can't change everything at once. And that's, if I can impart anything into your audience and the people that I talk to out there, is you don't have to do it all at once. Like, for most people, you have time, even if you have, a further along diagnosis, you still have time. And trying to do it all at once, you're inevitably going to fail because it's just too much, and you're trying to change too many things, and you're just going to give up. So when it comes to products, we bought an air purifier. We have one on each floor of our home to help remove the toxins. We just got our basement finished last fall, and I was spending a lot of time down there recovering after my surgery and thinking about the toxins in the carpet and the toxins in the paint and stuff. And again, it was a little overwhelming. So we got an air purifier. We can't rip up the carpet in our brand new basement. Like, that's not going to happen. As far as cleaning products, honestly, I found that vinegar, baking soda, and water will clean almost anything, depending on different concentrations for different things. You don't really need to buy expensive cleaning products. And there are a lot of cleaner products on the market. I haven't really found anything yet that is non-toxic completely. So most of the things we use are vinegar and water or baking soda, and they're cheap and they work really, really well. Products on your skin, again, there are the things to stay away from, the parabens and the phthalates and all of that, but it's very hard to find non-toxic beauty products, especially makeup, skincare, body care. Those are a little bit more easily accessible. Beauty products, I'm still working on that. So it's difficult. They're out there. Sometimes they're very expensive, and you just have to kind of be careful and pick one thing at a time. And then once you get that down, then you can move on to the next thing. Again, trying to do it all at once is just, it's a recipe for failure, unfortunately, because there's just too much.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Every time I even try to go down the rabbit hole of researching toxins, it's like, it begins to feel impossible because they're everywhere. And it's like, well, what good does it do to get rid of the one thing if I have 1,000 other things facing me? And I totally understand that. I am in that boat as well. But I agree with you that just baby steps, as you run out of a product, look for a better replacement. Or like you said, vinegar, baking soda, steam, there's boiling water. There's so many good things that we just have around us that we can use for a lot of these purposes. I do think there are some kind of low-hanging fruit, things like, not cooking in plastics. A lot of our, microwavable foods now come in microwavable plastics, but don't fall for it. You're getting plastic in your food and plastic vapors and things. So, simple things like that. Like even if it comes in a steamer bag, take it out of the bag and cook it in glass. Cook it on the stove, do whatever that means. So I do think there's simpler things that we can do without necessarily overhauling our entire household. But, like you said, baby steps. As you need something new, get an up-leveled product, get something cleaner. As you run out of, soap or shampoo or whatever it is, try to find a less toxic version. I agree with you. It's almost impossible to find anything that doesn't have any toxins in it. They're all going to have a fragrance or a preservative or, something in it. It's hard, but just try to find the ones that have the least bad things in them. And at least you're making some progress then.
And there's a great website. I think is it EWG.org?
Yeah, it's a great source. Yep.
That you can go to and you can put in ingredients, you can put in products, and it will give you, and it talks about the dirty dozen and the clean 15 for the produce that has the most pesticides and least pesticides and stuff. And it's a really great resource if you're looking for things with less toxins in them.
Yep, for sure. They give a nice, easy score to read and explain to any level of detail you would like to know. You can do all the research on their website for sure. They also have a really nice app that's good for scanning barcodes. So if you're in the grocery store and you're like, I don't know what I should get here, you can scan barcodes, and they don't have everything in there, but they do have a lot of different products, and it'll give you like a score on your shampoo bottle or whatever. And so I'm going to
go download that app.
Get That's those awesome. Things as well. So there's a lot of great tools for those things to just kind of, become more aware. And, there's times I scan every barcode I can find and it's like, okay, well, the best score here is a 7, which is not very good, but I'll take a 7 over a 9. I mean, sometimes you just have to do the best you can do instead of just, not buying anything or, sometimes you just have to do your best. And I think that's a good message for all of us to grab onto, is you don't have to overhaul it all, and you can just, take one step, make 1% better, I think is the basic message there. So I think that's great.
And to be careful because, I belong to a lot of Facebook groups and things and different cancer organizations. And you want to kind of be careful being in those groups because there are people in there who will try and shame you, who will try and browbeat you, oh gosh, you can't have this and you can't have this and don't ever take this. And everybody's on their own journey, no matter what, whether it's cancer, whether it's, diabetes, whatever, you still have to do what's best for you. And yes, there are the ideals, but don't let anybody shame you into doing something that you're not comfortable doing or you're not ready to do. You can go at your own pace. There are some that are like all plant-based and they will just browbeat you if you, say you have an egg And that's not what you need, especially when you're going through a process that's already stressful, and to have people, yelling at you and telling you what you're doing is wrong. If you're getting that in any of these groups or communities that you're a part of, you may want to find a different community, because that's not healthy for you either. So just take care of yourself and don't listen to what anybody else is saying, especially if they're saying it harshly.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that. I think anyone that actually cares about you should have a respectful way to say, did you know this or that about that thing? And then
Right.
you can take an educated stance and say, I actually don't agree with that. Or, thanks for the advice, but I'm good. But not when they're attacking you. When they're attacking you or telling you that what you're doing is going to kill you or something, extreme, there's probably an agenda behind that, or a bias that person has, like you said, on, maybe they're vegan, they're really staunch on that, or they're really staunch even on the other end. The carnivores can be just as, just as dogmatic about things. So, I mean, and that's just two examples. Of course, there's people who are anti certain things and very pro certain things. And, you see this a lot with artificial sweeteners. People are really pro camp or very anti camp. And anybody that's that dogmatic that can't possibly see that there's ever a time when somebody might be okay with making that choice, they're probably not someone you want to listen to. Even if they are a doctor, a nurse, an expert in something, nothing is really ever that black and white where you absolutely can't or you absolutely must. Sometimes that's the baby step we need to get to where we're going. And if somebody's being that stringent about something, they're probably not the best person to listen to. So I agree with that. And that is a very common problem in a lot of forums and Facebook groups and I mean, social media in general, but you also see it on Reddit and Quora and lots of other sites. So it's not a unique to Facebook's problem for sure.
I try not to go on too many different social media platforms. I try and stick with just a couple of them, because that can be overwhelming as well. And rabbit holes completely. Yeah.
For sure. And
I don't have enough time in my day.
Yeah. And you'll get a million opinions for a million things you look at. So that can be overwhelming as well, because you will get every end of the spectrum on every bit of every opinion the more you look. And so sometimes we just have to nope, I've made my decision. This is where I'm going. And
I think in the end, you need to just go with your gut, do the research, listen to people, but in the end, you have to do what's going to be best for you. And I mean, there are people out there who have lived an amazingly healthy life and they've done everything right, and they still get cancer. This isn't an absolute, if you do these things, you will never get cancer or it will never come back. I mean, cancer is its own entity, and who knows in the long, in the grand scheme of things, what causes it specifically. And there is no specific thing that is going to cure it or prevent it completely. So you just got to do the best that you can, do your research, do what feels good for you, do the low hanging fruits at least, and just try and be as healthy as you possibly can. And the rest is kind of a dice roll.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I agree with that. Yep. Yeah. I think we all just have to make the best choices that we can make right now. Yeah. So, I hear this a lot, especially when it comes to healthy eating, and, healthy food's so expensive and organic is so expensive and grass-fed is so expensive and all these things. And it's 100%, it is more expensive. I will 1,000% agree with you. And so maybe that's not the decision you can make today. Maybe that's truly not in your budget. That. I legit think that's a thing. And so maybe you're just making the best possible decision you can make. And be okay with that. Be okay with doing your best, doing whatever that is that you think is best for you, and be okay with it. Just own it.
Although I will say, the more you get rid of all the processed stuff in your pantry, the more money that you have to be able to afford. Because that was one thing that really kind of worried me at first is, yes, grass-fed beef is so expensive and organic produce is so expensive, and having to buy all of this stuff. But we have very little in our pantry now. It's almost all in the refrigerator. And so our dollars have just been reallocated to the produce and the meat and less to the stuff that goes in our pantry that we call like the middle of the grocery store. So
Yep.
if you look at it that way, it can be more affordable if you're getting rid of some of the other stuff. But yeah, it is still expensive. And if you can, if you can just at least buy an organic chicken that's maybe not free range, or, you know, something like that, anything that you can do that's going to be better is okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I went through the exact same thing. When I first started transitioning to Whole Foods, it was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to afford this. And at first it felt expensive because I was still buying some of the other junk. You know, I was still buying the diet sodas and the diet versions of crackers and, you know, stupid things. And so I was buying both. I was buying the expensive meats and fruits and vegetables and things, and the junk food to keep me going. Even though it was healthier junk food, it was still a lot of that. But once I was able to actually let go of all of the processed foods and stopped buying sodas and really all beverages, you know, buying all of those things, it's actually cheaper now because I can buy meat in bulk. I can buy eggs in bulk. I can buy, you know, vegetables are a little bit harder unless you're buying frozen, but that's another great option.
Yep.
Frozen vegetables are generally a whole lot cheaper in organic than they are fresh, and they last. So there's lots of different ways to make it fit into your budget. But I 100% agree with you that it's sometimes it's a mindset thing of how expensive it is, but you also need a whole lot less food when it's whole food.
Right.
I'm not eating 6 times a day anymore because the food I'm eating is really satiating. And so I eat twice a day. And so I'm buying a whole lot less total food as well. So I think there is a compromise, but it might feel more expensive at the beginning. And eventually I think it levels out or even can save you money for sure.
That's why, once again, the baby steps.
Yes, 100%.
So just look at, you know, if you're buying produce, just look at the Dirty Dozen.
Yep.
And if you're eating those, opt for organic. And then the Clean 15, you can buy those in conventional because you're going to get less of the crap in those. And just little things that you can do. That they made the little things become the big things in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great reminder that, you know, not everything has to be organic. I think it's fantastic if you can, but I think there are definitely strategies that you don't have to necessarily buy everything organic. So I think that's great. Any other messages?
You don't have to buy organic pineapple because you're not eating the outside. You're just eating the inside.
Exactly.
You don't have to buy organic avocados because you're not eating the outside. It's like, if you look at I'm eating the outside like an apple, you definitely want to go organic with that. And also wash all of your produce, whether it's organic or not, when you get home. I wash everything in a vinegar and water solution. I just let it sit for 15 minutes, get the dirt off of it, get any other stuff that might be on it before I, put it in my fridge.
Yes. Yep. Totally agree with all of that. Definitely washing everything because it's touched a lot of things in transit.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of people's hands.
a lot of people's hands, a lot of surfaces. Just all the things. So definitely wash your stuff as good as you can. Any other messages you'd like to leave the audience with? Anything about just healthy living in general?
Probably the biggest thing is, we're only given one body, and you got to live your life with this body. And yes, the sugar may taste good at the time, and the mac and cheese might be your comfort food, but in the long run, this body's got to last you your whole life. And do you want it to be a good life, or do you want it to be a sick life? And so, just take care of your body inside and out, and that gives you the best chance for longevity and a great healthy life.
I love that message. I think that's a great way to end this. So if people want to know more about you, or, cancer exercise specialist that you are, how can they find you?
So probably the best thing would be to email me or find me on social media. I'm at Melissa Grosboll. My handles on social media, or you can email me or direct message me. My email is drgrosboll, drgrosboll@gmail.com. And I offer free consultations. So if anybody wants to talk more about their cancer journey, about how exercise can play a part, or anything else, I would love to chat with them.
I love that. And do they need to live near you, or can it be a virtual setup?
Nope, it can totally be virtual. We can do everything over Zoom. And it's actually kind of fun because you're in your own home, and we actually can use, if we're doing lightweight, we can do soup cans. You don't have to have fancy equipment. Sometimes it's just household things in your home that we can do to give you a great workout.
I love that. That's fantastic. Because I think a lot of people, especially going through cancer, or if they're new to fitness, that was my thing. I'm like, I'm not joining a gym. I do not want anyone else seeing me do this workout. And so right. I definitely wanted something I could do at home. And so I think that's a great service so that they can do it from home if they don't want to go to a gym or buy a bunch of equipment. So I think that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely link up all of your information in the show notes. So it'll be really easy for people to just click on and come find you and learn all the things that they can do to get through their cancer process much healthier.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been fantastic. I think everyone has learned a ton, and we appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. I had a great time.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Right. And we'll catch you again on future episodes. Thanks for being a faithful listener to the podcast. I'd love it if you left me a 5-star review on this podcast so that others can more easily find this valuable information. Did you know I also work one-on-one with clients? I approach solving health challenges like I approached solving crimes, by conducting a thorough investigation into your case. Sadly, hundreds of millions of people in the US have insulin resistance, prediabetes, and diabetes, and the vast majority have no idea. I'm here to fix that. If you struggle with low energy, stubborn weight, hypertension, sleep disturbances, or any other undesired symptoms, let's talk. All you have to do is schedule a free call. The link will be in the show notes. And no, you do not need to live near me.